What's good, Sixers fans? Y'all are tuned into another dose of Chalk It Up, where no matter if we... Wait, hold that thought. Almost forgot my glasses. Y'all are tuned into another dose of Chalk It Up, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. I'm your humble host, Tone DeShields II, and y'all know I'm one of the best giving y'all this Eagles and Sixers content almost every day for damn near free. And all you got to do is show love to the kid. All you got to do is hit that subscribe button. If you like what you hear, all you got to do is hit that like button. If you don't like what you hear, all you got to do is hit the dislike button. At the end of the day, it all helps. It all lets me know I'm doing something right, and it definitely let me know if I'm doing something wrong. So I appreciate you guys. If you're interactive with the content, make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. I would appreciate it. If you're new, oh man, I hope I keep you. But listen, you guys, I want to talk about the Sixers today. The Sixers are coming up on free agency like everyone else. The NBA draft is coming up. You know, you're seeing all these trade rumors going around. And I think the Sixers need to really make certain decisions to put the team in the best position. And those decisions need to reflect on how it affects Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. Because in my opinion, they need to fill that roster up. They're not too far away. Let's be honest. They were one of the best teams at home. They sucked on the road. I put that on coaching. And I think Doc Rivers is going to change all of that. So when it comes to the free agents, because that's what I really want to talk about. I want to talk about specific guys I think the Philadelphia 76ers should target because, I don't know. I think these guys will fit the mold. I think these guys will fit the system. I think these guys will actually allow Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons to coexist a lot better if you fill them up with these type of guys, you know, these type of talented guys. I personally believe that the Sixers should be going after guards mainly this offseason, and, you know, some wing players that can stretch the floor. The bottom line is the Sixers were one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league last year. Again, they were terrible on the road. And honestly, when you can't shoot and you're on the road, you're never going to win. It's just that simple. So the Sixers need to be going after, you know, guards, stretch threes, stretch fours, guys that can literally space the floor as much as they can, because Simmons, we all know he's not shooting right now. Hopefully he does get the shooting bug later on down the line in his career, maybe later on this season. And we know Joel Embiid, with them being both on the floor, it can get a little clunky because Simmons isn't shooting. Embiid can stretch the floor a little bit. I prefer him to be down low, just dominating. But I'm going to get right into the guys I'm talking about. So let's start. And this is in no particular order. These guys are ranked, in my opinion. These are just the names, and this is just the order I put them in. No big deal, nothing more to read into. So let's get right into it, y'all. The first guy, in my opinion, that the Sixers should think about targeting, and again, this is no particular order. This is just the first guy that I thought about. One of the first guys. So one of the first guys I think that the Sixers should go after is DJ Augustin, a point guard that used to play for the Orlando Magic. And honestly, it seems like he's shooting better. He's shooting better, you know, even later on in his career. You know, his past 3 seasons in Orlando, he shot above 38%, then 41%, and, you know, like above 40%. So he, for pretty much his last 3 seasons in Orlando, because I think he was there for 4 seasons. But anyway, his last 3 seasons in Orlando, he shot well over 38%, I believe, from the field. As a matter of fact, to be quite accurate, I believe his last season with them, the season that just ended, he shot 35% to be exact. And he shot 40% from the field. But the seasons prior to that, he shot above 40% multiple times. So he's clearly a sharpshooter. I'm not really sure what happened last year. Maybe he needed to pick up more of the load and the ball ran through him a lot more. Who knows? But all I know is DJ Augustin is a point guard that can be perfect coming off the bench. He can stretch the floor. He can allow Simmons and Embiid to exist on the floor at the same time. And in my opinion, he's somebody that you can run your offense through. He's a veteran. You know, he doesn't make waves. I think he'll be cheap. He shoots 89% from the free throw line, and he averaged about 4.6 assists a game on 10.5 points per game. So honestly, he can give you a healthy dose of offense on the coming off the bench, and he can keep the offense flowing. That's important. One of the biggest problems was when Simmons came off the court, the offense seemed stagnant. It seemed like people didn't know where to be. It seemed like they tried to run that ball through Shake Milton one too many times, and Shake Milton is a natural 2 guard. Let's just be honest. Shake Milton is a natural 2 guard. And he shouldn't be the main ball handler. You shouldn't be running your offense through Shake Milton. They tried to do that going back into the bubble, and it just wasn't materializing. Shake Milton's young and raw, and again, he's a 2 guard. He's not your prototypical point guard that can slow it down, play in the half court, get to his 3-point shot. And honestly, I think it'd be beautiful to see DJ Augustin running that pick and roll with Joel Embiid. And, that's just how I feel about it. The guy is small, but he can shoot and run your offense. That's the bottom line. So I think DJ Augustin would be a good pickup for the Sixers coming off the bench. So let's move on to my next guy. Joe Harris, shooting guard from Brooklyn. Yes, Joe Harris, the sharpshooter. Just a 3-point assassin. The dude is 29 years old, 6 years pro. He's 6'6", so he has good size. He averaged about 30 minutes per game, so he was a starter pretty much last season. 42% from the 3-point line and 48% from the field. That's great. That's great. That's amazing. Shooting over 40% from the field, over 40% from the 3-point line multiple times. That's amazing. He is a shaky free throw shooter though, and that's his weakness. Granted, he's not getting to the line that much because it's not his game, but he's not the best free throw shooter. He shoots about 72% from the free throw line, and he averaged about 14.5 points per game last season. So Joe Harris is a good guy to have on your team. You can have him coming off the bench. It all depends how you want to use him, but the dude is a marksman. It's just that simple. He's a marksman. And that's what the Sixers need. We need shooters. Again, we were one of the worst 3-point shooting teams last year. One of the worst. That's never been one of our strengths. We haven't been good at shooting the three since we had guys like J.J. Redick, Marco Bellinelli, Ersan Ilyasova, you know what I mean, Robert Covington. And Robert Covington is streaky as well, but that's another conversation for another day. But the Sixers haven't been good at shooting the three for quite some time, in my opinion. And it's kind of hard to watch knowing the league is just filled with shooters, and when it comes down to it in the playoffs, you're going to need your shooters. You're going to need those guys to make those shots. And honestly, we never had that. And it showed, especially on the road. At home, the Sixers were able to mask it a little bit more because, I don't know, they just had this mystique at home. But on the road, you need your shooters to make their shots. And when they're not and you're playing from behind constantly and you're blowing 20-point leads, and it just gets out of hand. It gets out of hand. So far, there's DJ Augustin and Joe Harris. And again, these guys I'm naming, I don't expect the Sixers to get all of these guys. That's not what I'm saying. I just think these are a handful of guys, my top 5 guys the Sixers should target. So let's move on to my next guy. And this might be one of my favorite guys I think they should go after. I think he should be one of the main priorities, and that is Danilo Gallinari. Small forward / power forward. He's pretty much your flexible, adaptable forward coming out of OKC. 32 years old, 11 years pro, 6'10". Your prototypical stretch 4 who can also put the ball on the floor as well. That's the beautiful thing about Danilo Gallinari. It seems like, and it's weird, he's getting extremely and oddly better with age. It's weird. It's weird. He had a career high in points scored, I believe, a couple seasons ago. This past season, he averaged 18.7 points per game, 89% from the free throw line, 40% 3-point shooter, 44% from the field, averaging 30 minutes per game. The dude can shoot. He can stretch the floor. He can allow the Sixers to do so many things. Can you imagine a lineup with Ben Simmons, Joe Harris, Tobias Harris, Danilo Gallinari, Joel Embiid? Now, you may say they sacrifice defense with that lineup, but with that lineup, you can legit stretch the floor. You can legitimately stretch the floor. And the only people that's living in the paint will be Simmons and Embiid. And even Embiid can stretch out a little bit. So, again, that's just a mock lineup. Most likely the lineup won't be that at all. And honestly, the Sixers have certain people on their roster that can honestly, most likely, probably will start over Joe Harris if they do get him. But this offseason is so weird. You're going to see trades. You're going to see so many different things because you don't really know what's going to happen. And then with the Sixers having a new GM and Daryl Morey, you really don't know what's going to happen in the long run. You really just don't know. But I think Danilo Gallinari will be a great piece on the Sixers roster. Again, he will allow us to stretch the floor. He can put the ball on the floor himself because as he's gotten older, he's become a better ball handler. It's crazy. Danilo Gallinari was always successful, was always a problem, in my opinion. He was always a problem in New York playing for the Knicks. He was a problem playing for the Nuggets. He was a problem playing for the Clippers. And, he was a problem playing for OKC. His best years were with the Nuggets. But like I said, he's getting better with age, and that's some things you just don't see in sports. Maybe he's getting smarter. Who knows what it is? But I think He's a guy that the Sixers can really utilize, and he's a veteran. It's just a win-win situation with Danilo Gallinari. Now, he's not the best defender, but when you got Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid on the floor, that can mitigate that. So let's move on to the next guy. Our next guy that I believe the Sixers should target in free agency is one of the Morris twins. Which one do you think it is? It damn sure ain't Markieff. I want to say the Sixers should go after Marcus Morris, and I'm going to tell you why. So Marcus Morris spent his past season playing for the Knicks and the LA Clippers. He was traded to the Clippers midway through the season. He's 31 years old, 9 years pro, and he's 6'8", 218 pounds. So the difference between him and Markieff is size and weight. Markieff is heavier. Marcus is lighter. Marcus is lighter on his feet. Marcus can get to his shot more and has better ball handling ability, in my opinion. So I think the Sixers should go after Marcus Morris. He averaged 32 minutes per game. He was a starter in New York, and then when he got to the Clippers, he became a rotational piece. So his numbers dipped when he went to LA. I wouldn't really base my opinion on Marcus Morris on his LA trip, because that was really, in my opinion, an impromptu move. That team was never really all together. That team really never had their rotations properly utilized. And I don't think that's a good way to properly judge Marcus Morris. Marcus Morris should be really judged off of his New York Knicks tape, his New York Knicks performance, because that team was bad, and he had to play above his pay grade, in my opinion. And you were able to see exactly what his skill set is, when the ball is in his hands. And again, he was a marksman. He was a marksman. He's a fearless shooter. And that's one of the biggest things I get from Marcus Morris. He's fearless. He has grit. He has moxie. And honestly, having that sort of toughness next to Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons would be amazing. We all know Marcus Morris and Embiid. We all know Embiid has issues with the Morris twins, period. Mainly Marcus when they played the Knicks. But nonetheless, Marcus Morris shot 44% from the three-point line, 44% from the field, 82% from the free throw line, and he averaged almost 20 points with the Knicks. The dude can shoot. He can shoot. And what I noticed, he can shoot at all three levels. He can shoot the three. He can get to his mid-range shot. You know what I'm saying? Coming off the elbow. He loves shooting that mid-range off the elbow. He loves it. He loves it. He can even get to the rack if you allow him to. So my thing is, Marcus Morris gives you another ball handler to a certain extent. When things break down, he doesn't panic. He's not afraid to shoot that ball. If you notice, Markieff, I believe it was game five of the NBA Finals, he had an opportunity to end it. And honestly, he froze. He threw the ball out of bounds. He caught himself trying to get the ball to AD. It was just indecisive nature. He just seemed like he was afraid to shoot it. He could have did a lot, but he ended up throwing the ball out of bounds. Marcus Morris, I don't see that happening. Marcus Morris, I've seen tape on him where as though it was plenty of times where the play broke down. It was plenty of times where the shot clock was about to go off, and he just somehow, some way got to the bucket. So I like that about him. I like his fearlessness. I like his aggressiveness. And again, his stats dipped when he went to the LA Clippers. That, again, is not a fair way to judge this man. I don't think so. I just don't. The Clippers just threw him into that rotation thinking it was going to fit. And Marcus is an emotional character. So having him on that team will be interesting. But I think just adding that extra level of toughness will make the Sixers that much better. And he will allow us to stretch the floor. If you notice, all these guys that I've mentioned so far, they're veterans. They're all 29 years of age or higher. You know what I'm saying? At this point, the Sixers, their biggest problem, in my opinion, one of their biggest problems was maturity. Maturity. Joel Embiid, it took a lot for you to get him up to play. And then Ben Simmons, it just seemed like he was so nonchalant sometimes. But I think that's just his demeanor. That's just his MO. But the Sixers lacked maturity when it came to their roster last year. They were so young, and it just seemed like Brett Brown couldn't get the rotations right. I think Marcus Morris, along with those other guys I mentioned, just brings maturity, brings veteran pedigree. And none of these guys are champions, but I know they're hungry. They're all getting to that point in their career where they want to win. And I think the most expensive guy I've mentioned so far might end up being either Joe Harris or Danilo Gallinari, because I believe Joe Harris is looking for a decent contract. Moving on to my last guy. that I believe the Sixers should target. And this guy was already on the roster, but he's going to be a free agent. But I think the Sixers should make it a point to try to bring him back on a team-friendly deal. And that guy is Alec Burks. Yes, Alec Burks. I love Alec Burks. I love watching him play. I love watching him get to his shot. The dude is a crafty combo guard, and I think that's something the Sixers could really utilize. Another ball handler, a guy that can get to his shot at all three levels. He's fearless. Again, he's crafty. He's so crafty. 29 years of age, 9 years pro, 6'6", 214 pounds, averaged 20 minutes per game. When he was with the Sixers, because he started the season on the Warriors and he got traded to the Sixers. So when he was with the Warriors, he averaged 29 minutes per game. He was starting. Because the Warriors had so many injuries at that time, and they were on a down year, clearly. And Alec Burks was turning up. He had the opportunity, and he was turning up in the West. And I think him starting out in the West, playing for the Jazz, and his journey, it forced him to become a much more skilled player. But like I said, with the Warriors, he averaged 29 minutes per game. The Sixers, he averaged 20 minutes per game. He was coming off the bench. He was more of a rotational piece coming with the Sixers. And in my opinion, that actually lent to his game. That actually helped his game. Let me tell you why. When he was with the Warriors, he was averaging 37% from the three-point line. When he got to the Sixers, that jumped from 37% to 41%. So at that point, his sample size went down in terms of shots. His opportunities went down, but his production went up. So that goes to tell me that Alec Burks, he can't be your leading guy necessarily, but when given the right opportunities, when surrounded with people that can put the ball in his hands, and also when surrounded with people that can take some of the load off of his hands, he's a much more productive, a much more efficient shooter, a much more efficient player. And again, it proves it even just with his general field goal percentage. With the Warriors, he was averaging 40% from the field, whereas though with the Sixers, 46% from the field. Again, his numbers jumped up from an efficiency standpoint because his touches went down. So there's something to be said about that. He can fit on this roster. He's a great rotational piece, a combo guard, and can put the ball on the floor, can score at all three levels. He can shoot fearlessly from the 3-point range, mid range, and he can get to the rack very easily. He's quick, agile, and he's crafty. That's what makes him so good, in my opinion. He's very crafty. He was never one of the most talented coming into the league, so he had to learn how to score. He had to learn how to get to his spots, and I think that's so important. I think that's something that's so dope you need to have in your locker room. Guys that are crafty, know how to get to their shots, and they know who they are. They know who they are. And again, 29 years of age, 9 years pro. There's a maturity level there. The Sixers lack the maturity with Embiid, Simmons, guys like Milton, Thibault, Korkmaz. They were so young, and they lacked maturity in various ways. You can make an argument that Al Horford and Tobias Harris leveled that out, but in all reality, not necessarily. They're not. They did it. Bottom line, they just didn't level it out. The Sixers were just an overall immature team, and it showed time and time again on the floor. But Alec Burks shooting 88% from the free throw line, very, very reliable from the free throw line. And then just for that season, combined with the Sixers and the Warriors, he averaged about 15 points per game. With the Warriors, he averaged closer to like 17 points per game, whereas though with the Sixers, it was more so like around 12, 13 points per game. So that averages out to about 15 points per game. And like I said, his shooting percentage improved when his sample size, when his touches went down. His efficiency went up when his touches went down. So that tells me that he is a better rotational piece. He can fit perfectly in our team. He can shoot, dribble. If anything, he might be a liability on defense, but he's fearless. He's crafty. He knows how to get to his shot, bottom line. The Sixers are losing 3 guys in particular this offseason. That's Alec Burks, who I think we should bring back, like I said, Glenn Robinson III, and Furkan Korkmaz. Honestly, we can do without Korkmaz and Glenn Robinson III. It was fun to watch Korkmaz. It was okay to see Glenn Robinson III, but I think we can move on from those guys because again, we got Daryl Morey, and I think these Sixers are going to get better as this roster develops. And that's all I have for you guys today, man. I hope you guys, liked my take when it came to the Sixers free agency targets. Like I said, the Sixers need to go after combo guards and wings, guys that can put the ball on the floor, guys that can get to a shot, and guys that can stretch the floor for them and has some length. But I think 9 times out of 10 they're going to end up sacrificing length for shooting when it's all said and done, and that's fine. But as long as you have that balance, you'll be okay. Or if you just find guys that have length and that can shoot the ball, like Danilo Gallinari, You know what I'm saying? You know, like Joe Harris. You know, like Marcus Morris. Those guys have length. You know what I'm saying? Even Alec Burks to a certain extent. If anybody, the biggest liability on defense of the guys I mentioned will be, you know, DJ Augustin, for the simple fact that because he's 32 years old, 12 years pro, and he's 5'11". He's older, he's not as quick, and he's not tall. He's not a big guy. Don't have that much weight on him. So he's not stopping anybody on defense, really. So, again, the Sixers have options, but those are the options I think they need to entertain when it comes to free agency. DJ Augustin, point guard. Joe Harris, 2 guard. Danilo Gallinari, your combo forward. Marcus Morris, same thing, your combo forward. And then on top of that, Alec Burks, you know, your prototypical crafty 2 guard. So that's my take, you guys. You're always tuned in to Chalk It Up, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just gotta charge it to the game. I'm your humble host, Tone DeSales II. Make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe to the content. I'm eternally grateful for you guys. One love. Let's go Sixers.